Good evening and welcome to Limerick Institute of Technology's Engineering Information Evening. My name is Peadar Henehan and I'm a member of the marketing team here at LIT. This evening we will have a discussion with representatives from engineering companies in the region to give you some insight into their industries, the type of careers available, and why LIT graduates are in high demand in such industries. After this discussion, you will be able to view an engineering CAO presentation to give you a broad overview of the full suite of engineering programs available at LIT. This video will be available to view further down this webpage. A Q&A forum will also be available on this very webpage from 7 to 8 p.m. We will have engineering lecturers from LIT on standby to answer any questions you may have. If you are unable to have your questions answered, you can log them with your guidance counsellor and I will endeavour to answer them at a later date. But firstly, to kick off things, we would like to show you a quick video from some of our employers in the region. Thank you. And then you can click leave. Leave.
You know, when graduates come in the door, what do we look for? We look for work ethic, we look for imagination, we look for self-starting, right? We look for people who have initiative and will take initiative, and we look for people that are not afraid to fail.
Our relationship with LIT is just so important to Kirby Group. We know what calibre of a graduate that we are hiring when we meet students from LIT.
Yeah, we love working with the LIT graduates here in Modular. We find that they're really well-rounded graduates with a really great balance of having strong practical skills combined with the theory.
I suppose they have that curiosity that all graduates should have.
We see them as being the graduates that really have that get up and go attitude. They always show that they're the kind of graduates that find a way through a problem and that they have that passion and that drive to succeed.
Since I started the business in 1998, the vast majority of my graduates have come from LIT.
So the work experience and placements that LIT students complete is so vital for their learning and development.
We absolutely would love to have more female engineers join the team here. I think it's an amazing career for both the boys and the girls, and I would just love to see more girls choosing engineering as a career.
For the last 4 or 5 years, we would have at least 6 or 7 students working with us on a part-time basis.
Colleges like LIT with a broad technical base are absolutely critical for a modern economy.
Engineering is a really exciting career choice. There's a huge demand for engineers at the moment, so there's lots of exciting opportunities here in the Midwest, but also all across Ireland.
Welcome back. It now gives me great pleasure to welcome 3 leading industrialists to our forum, and hopefully our discussion will inform you and help you ease your difficulties when completing your CAO application. Good evening, gentlemen, and welcome to the Limerick Institute of Technology's Engineering Information Evening. Thank you for being with us this evening. So I'll now take this opportunity to introduce our panel. On the left of your screen, we have Mark Danaher. Mark is Technical Services Manager with Kirby Group Engineering, and they are based in the Raheen Industrial Estate. On the top right, you have Gerry Reynolds, Managing Director of Takumi Precision Engineering, and they are also based at Raheen Industrial Estate. And then on the bottom right, we have Michael Mulcahy, Operations Director, Johnson & Johnson Vision Care, and they're based in the National Technological Park at Castletroy. Now, gentlemen, this broadcast has been noticed to 190 second-level schools in our region, and is hoped that our discussion will enlighten Leaving Cert students about different industries and the types of careers available should they graduate with an engineering qualification. Okay, gentlemen, so I suppose my first question to you would be, give us a broad overview of your company. Tell us about what you do, how many employees you have, and if I start with you, Mark, on that one.
Yeah, so hi everyone. I work with Kirby Group Engineering. We're an electrical and mechanical, construction company. So we work with the big construction firms across Ireland and Europe, and what we do is we install electrical and mechanical services to buildings, so pharmaceutical plants, data centres, office blocks, all that kind of thing. We employ directly 1,000 people at the moment, and we subcontract in another 1,000. So across Ireland and Europe, we have 2,000 people working with us. I suppose Kirby started in 1964 with two brothers as electricians, and today now we're one of Europe's biggest M&E contractors.
And Mark, do you do a lot of overseas work?
Yeah, so we're working in the Nordics at the moment. We're working in Sweden, Finland. We're doing big data centers up there. We're working in mainland Europe, the Netherlands, Germany, Switzerland, and then across the UK and Ireland as well.
Good, good. Gerry, would you give us a broad overview of Takumi?
Yeah, Takumi was started by myself back in 1998. We're a subcontract precision engineering company, so we effectively we manufacture precision engineering components for a lot of the bigger multinationals around Ireland. We do a lot of work in the medical device and also in the aerospace industry. In medical device, we would effectively make hips and knees and medical instruments for companies like Stryker, Medtronic, Johnson & Johnson. And on the aerospace industry, we effectively make subcomponents for Virgin-built aircraft. So, for companies like Bombardier up in Northern Ireland, for Airbus, we would make the bracketry that's assembled together to build a new aircraft. I would say about 40% of our business stays in Ireland, as in goes into multinationals in Ireland, and about 60% of our business is exported into the UK and throughout Europe, and also into the US. And
how many have you working for you now, Gerry?
We have 85 people in Raheen, based out of one site in Raheen.
Very good. And Michael, would you give us a broad overview of Johnson & Johnson and the number of staff you have and that kind of thing?
Sure, Peadar. So good evening, everybody. So I'm Michael Mulcahy, Operations Director here at Johnson & Johnson Division here in Limerick. So probably be aware Johnson & Johnson, one of the biggest healthcare companies in the world, about 120,000 people across the world. In that, here in Ireland, we have about 5,000-6,000. And actually the base here we have in Limerick, which is the medical devices side of the house. We have medical devices in Cork as well in the Queen, but here in Limerick, we have the largest population of the J&J. We've close to, between direct and indirect employees, around 2,000 people here at the Taffy campus. So we primarily manufacture contact lenses, and that's our business. We're here celebrating 25 years this year. So, it's always been set up, we've been growing year on year. And, we've been here for a long time, and we intend to be growing and continuing to be here for a long generation in the future. We make 3 billion contact lenses per year. So try to equate that. If you blink your eye, you have made 30 lenses. So it's high automation, high engineering. So the vast majority of that 2,000 workforce, certainly 2/3 of them would be from a technology and engineering qualification background, because that's the base of our capabilities and of our growth in innovation. And in addition to that, we have a campus here. I mentioned the word campus. We also do combination products. So we have the first drug-coated contact lens being launched to market. Actually, we just started manufacturing it this week, and we'll be launching in the next month or two. So we supply actually 70 countries across the world with all our products. And in addition to that, we have a software development for J&J Europe, based out here in Limerick, and also the Automation Centre of Excellence. So we've expanded our remit as the years have gone on, and continue to have a strong base here in Limerick.
Great, Michael. Michael, there's a small little bit of an echo there when you're speaking. Maybe there might be something wrong with your mic or whatever. Okay, that's great, gentlemen. Now, I suppose at this time of a world pandemic pandemic and all that kind of thing, and I suppose none of us can predict the future. But I suppose from the point of view of where you see your company going forward, what type of graduates do you think you'll be employing in the future? Will they be mechanical, electrical, automation, or whatever? Gerry, would you take that one?
Yeah, well, I think Takumi, we're in business now for 23 years, and when I think back to, I think in our second year, when we were only kind of a 3 or 4 man organization, I ended up taking on no less than 4 graduates from LIT. They were all of the mechanical engineering persuasion.
Okay.
And those 4 guys are still with me and are now performing what I would call leadership roles and management roles within Takumi. And as because of that, it formed a very hand and glove relationship between Takumi and LIT down through the years because of that positive experience, I suppose, in taking on those first 4 graduates. And it was a case of I took on one and he introduced another, who introduced another, who introduced another. You know,
Yes.
it was that's how it was. So and I suppose another development throughout the years as well was the evolution of the precision engineering degree, and I think that the evolution of that degree is a real testament to how LIT engages with industry to figure out what industry wants, and our industry, precision engineering industry, didn't really have a degree program or even an apprenticeship that suited it. And precision engineering is a competence that's required all over the world, and every industry requires it. Every industry, whether it's automotive, medical device, semiconductor, pharmaceutical, it requires metal to be cut or plastic to be machined in order to form products that go into the industry. But LIT some 4 or 5 years ago sat down with some of the leaders in precision engineering and formulated and laid out a precision engineering degree so that our industry would have a feed of graduates. And the fruition, those graduates are starting to come out into industry now and are gaining employment and are really hitting the ground running with the skill set we need. So I suppose going forward, I fully intend to continue to feed from that course, but the mechanical courses and other courses as well do also give us with this feed our industry with the skill sets required.
Great, Gerry, thanks. Mark, what about your Kirby Engineering?
Yeah, so being an electrical and mechanical services provider, we need both electrical and mechanical engineers. I suppose the key thing for Kirby is because we're multidiscipline, we work in the construction sector. We work across all different, pharmaceutical, data center, office, commercial fit out, all of that kind of thing. And I suppose the key for us is to get good graduates with a good engineering background. If it's mechanical engineering, you can come in. We have a graduate program. You start off working with our mechanical team, and then you get to experience the electrical side of the business as well. So you might spend 6 months with the mechanical team, then you spend 6 months with the electrical team. And then there's my department, which would be the services coordination and technology side of things. And you will come into our side of things for another 6 months. And what it does is it rounds you. I suppose when you come out as a graduate, you've been either mechanical or electrical, but the key for us is what we're looking for is that good background in engineering. And once you start with Kirbys, you can actually move any way you want. You can get into any side of the business that you need to get into. So we're looking for good practical engineers, MRE, and that they can develop within Kirbys then to be more rounded.
Excellent, great, Mark. And Michael, what about Johnson & Johnson?
Yeah, so our partnership with LIT goes back quite a long period of time. It's proven to be a fruitful source of key talent for us. I mean, if I was put in summary, we hire between 20 and 30 between graduates and apprentices each year, and all our apprenticeships people come from LIT, and actually over 50% of our graduates come from LIT. So, that's due to the fact that we see that very practical, applied learning skills, come in with strong technical acumen. Equally, they tend to be locally based, or certainly within the region of the Limerick area. And and again, very similar to what Mark was saying there, is that we find that people come in, they go into 2-year graduate program or the apprentice program. We give them a chance to expose them to process engineering, high automation, mechanical engineering, software development. So that because they come in with electrical skills, electronics, robotics, software. We also have an interest in renewable energies, because sustainability is a key factor as well. So engineering of any discipline is a key a track for us to have the people come in with the right skill sets. We found LIT to be fantastic in having industry tailored programs. We like to pride ourselves on the fact that people come in and have an exciting experience during their graduate and apprentice program. They get to try a varied things, because people think of engineering sometimes in a very narrow field. That's quite the opposite. I mean, you can go from engineering to making new drugs, like I just mentioned, the combination products, to doing high robotics, to doing software development, and go places across the entity of the company within Limerick, as I mentioned, the campus, but equally across Johnson & Johnson worldwide, their sister sites in Florida, etc. So, as I said, LIT has been a fantastic partner, probably one of the most key partners we have in sourcing key talent for the graduates and the apprenticeship programs.
Thank you, Michael. Now, if I could put to all three of you, what attributes do you like and what attributes do you need in a graduate? And I suppose the question I'd be asking is, do LIT graduates fulfill your ambitions for hiring a new graduate? Gerry, would you take that?
Yeah, I think way back to my own time in college, LIT always had that and I have to confess I went to UL, but LIT always had that.
Mention that now, Gerry.
Well, but even back in those days, in the 80s, LIT had that reputation of being a very practical place where you got a good grounding in engineering, whereas UL might have been a bit more theoretical. But I have found myself with the graduates that have come out of LIT that they're industry ready. They're more grounded and they understand the needs of industry and the needs of an employer, possibly that little bit better than graduates from other universities. I think that's to do with the ethos in the college. I myself as well. We would and we'd always have a pipeline of students engaged in part-time work throughout their 3 or 4 years in college. So, a lot of the students that I take on have very often worked for Takumi part-time for 3 or 4 years while they're in college. So they kind of graduate from college as Takumi engineers as well as LIT engineers. So that possibly helps as well with our overall experience. But yeah, I think practicality, understanding the needs of industry, would be the two attributes that I would give towards LIT people.
Thanks, Gerry. What about you, Mark, and Kirby Engineering?
Yeah, I suppose very similar to what Gerry said. I do have the experience, however, of being in UL and LIT, so I can make a good comparison, and I can echo what Gerry is saying. I suppose I did my degree in LIT, and then I did a postgrad in UL, and I have to say, LIT, the grounding you get there when you go in I haven't experienced that and I've done a number of courses in a number of different institutes part-time, and the grounding you get, the practical work you get in LIT is just fantastic. I mean, there's one thing doing the theory, and you'll find when you're doing your leaving cert, it can be a memory test at times, but when you go into LIT, what I found was, and I was never really that academic in school, but I think I excelled when I went to LIT because I could physically touch, feel, do the work, see the work that I was studying. And I think that's vitally important for Kirbys because we're a construction company and a lot of our guys are very hands-on. So we're project-based. We have site installation teams. And whereas our engineers won't actually be physically installing anything. They need to understand how the real life scenarios work. And I think the academic side is fantastic, and LIT do a great job in that, but they really do bring the practical side to it. My own department, we have 50 in my department, and 20 of them came from LIT. And I suppose one of them is in, like Gerry has a leadership role now. He came straight from the mechanical side of things, and he's now actually our lead electrical service coordinator. So it just shows, you know, I mean, it goes back to it, the practical lessons he learned in LIT, he was able to apply very quickly in Kirbys, and he's really excelled over the last number of years. And there's some other guys there that's showing great promise as well. But I definitely put it down to the practical side of things that you get in LIT.
Great. And Michael, what about yourself?
Yeah, so I think, you know, Gerry and Mark covered, 100% agree with everything they said. And I suppose in addition to that, you know, and a key thing, and it's something, you know, that as a sector, you know, we it hasn't been great in our record that, you know, we don't attract in enough diversity, you know. So, you know, we like some of the, and there's not some, the best engineers I have worked with have been female engineers, right? So, you know, I would say, look, it's an industry that, you know, we've copped onto and kind of realized that we need to make sure that it's more, you know, known to a diverse population out there to be attractive to come into it. And LIT has been on the front foot of that as well in helping us to bring it in. I mean, we have now, thankfully, as of from this year, 50% of our apprentices and 50% of our graduates are female. Right? Okay. But I don't mean just diversity in gender as well, while that is extremely important, right? Is in addition is, you know, we find LIT brings in people with, you know, diversity in thought, you know, and passion. They come in passionate for you know what they're about engineering and the technical discipline they're in, but diversity in thought and experiences, you know. And at the end of the day, you know, we want to attract in people here. You know, as we say, we want you to come in as you, be you. Right? We don't want me too's. We want people that were, you know, passionate, can have a bit of fun, enjoy their time and with us, but equally by doing that they'll thrive and bring their best. So I would just say, you know, I endorse everything Mark and Gerry just said, but I think the other big factor, and that's a key one, is LIT has been great at attracting in diversity of both gender into the courses, and equally that helps us as an industry to completely move forward. Because we are our step change improved the more diverse we get as a workforce.
Okay. Well, here at LIT, you know, we put a very strong emphasis on learning by doing and practical-based learning. You know, more than 30% of most of our engineering programs are practical. And I mean, as I'm sure Mark will testify, having been through the system, and we crossed swords one time, I think the two of us.
We did.
We did. You know, that an example would be, you know, how we deal with the practical content. Say a student is in a lecture on electronics, and the lecturer is discussing, you know, inductors, capacitors, heat sinks, resistors, and that kind of thing. When the lecture is over, the student goes to a lab, a 2-hour lab, where they take the components, they solder them into a circuit, they test the circuit, they do fault finding on the circuit, and in that way they get a full and through you know, understanding of how the components work. And we try and keep that, you know, and keep that within all of our different programs. And I mean, would it be fair to say that our graduates, when they go out into industry, display that? Would you say, Gerry, that they display the ethos we have here on the practical content?
Yeah, certainly. And there's it exhibits itself in even small things that you know, that a graduate from LIT will know how to make and measure something. You know, they'll have handled a vernier, they'll have handled a micrometer.
Yeah.
And it's possible to go through other colleges without ever getting that very basic practical piece of knowledge, as in, you know, hold a vernier in your hand and measure something. You know, be able to read a micrometer.
Yeah.
You can go through other colleges and not get that very basic, you know, fundamental point of engineering. You know.
Yeah.
But that won't happen in LIT. You know, that there is a there is an exposure and there's an awareness of the practicalities beyond the theoretical, you know.
And Michael, do you find now when you take on a graduate at Johnson & Johnson that they show that and they display that ethos we have here on the practical thing?
Absolutely, Peadar. Actually, I was only talking to some of the engineering managers and leads down just because before this meeting today, I was talking to them yesterday and there was actually overwhelmingly 100% consensus. They went and said LIT, those graduates distinguished themselves by the fact that they come in, hit the ground running, is what the phraseology are saying. That they, you know, as Gerry said, the fundamentals are already there. And remember, we're a very fast-paced industry here, so you know we've high automation. Like no human hand touches the products here. And I did mention that we make 3 billion lenses, so 30 a second, right? So you've got you know, in that reality is, you know, it's fast-paced, high, you know, and people having the basics and fundamentals coming in and not having to be taught that is a head start, right? And without question, 100% consensus across about the 8 or 10 I spoke to individually. So I think you can't get any from
It's always going to happen.
Gerry's baffled at me.
And Mark, you know, with Kirby Engineering, do you find that, you know, when you hire an LIT graduate that they display that ethos when they get in the workplace?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, look, there's what the guy spoke about there, the practical engineering, you know, picking up a micrometer, measuring something, or, you know, that practical work is needed. But another side of it that I've seen is, and it definitely in the construction industry, is people and how you talk to people, how you deal with people. And, you know, I suppose there's a big push in our business from our managing director at the moment to just show how people, I suppose our business is people. You can talk about engineering and things an awful lot, but it comes down to people at the end of the day. And if you're sitting in a classroom or in a lecture hall with 200 other people and you're reading your notes, and then you go to your next lecture and you do that all day, you don't really engage on a personal level with the lecturers or with the other people around you. So I think she agrees. No, but so what I find is when you go, like you said, Peadar, you're in a lecture and then you go to a workshop and you're in a smaller number, you're with your lecturer. And what I found was, you know, fault finding, problem solving on a practical level with the people around you is very important. You know, you don't know everything. You need to ask questions. You need people next to you to help you. And I found that I built good relationships with the lecturers and with some of my classmates that I work with now in Kirbys, and I still have a very good relationship with LIT. You know, I can walk in there pre-COVID and knock on your door or knock on any of the other lecturers' door and just say hello and have a cup of tea. And I suppose that's a real personable, practical side that you don't get in another college, you know.
Well, I suppose we have an advantage here as well, that we have relatively small classes, you know, typically 40, 60, maybe sometimes less than that. And when they're broken up into groups then for practical sessions, the groups tend to be a little smaller and the lecturer does get time to get round to everybody and help them and sort out their difficulties. Okay, if we could maybe diverse a little bit now and we'll have a brief look, we'll say, at apprenticeship training and the important role it plays in engineering and in industry generally. Now, Michael, you're involved with the generation apprenticeships out there, but I suppose I need to say at the outset to our audience who will be tuned in, you cannot come to LIT and apply to become an apprentice. If you want to become a craft apprentice, which was the traditional 4-year apprenticeship, carpenter, electrician, fitter, etc., you need to go to your local ETB office or your local Solus representative. But the generation apprenticeships then, they are done again through company sponsorship. And Michael, you might tell us about the generation apprenticeship scheme you have running in Johnson & Johnson.
Sure, Peadar. So we recognize, as I mentioned earlier, so we, you know, in our, by the way, we have all our high automation lines at process technician level, and so it's a level 6 or above level to be both in electrics, mechanics, etc., to be able to operate these high automated lines. And you know, we recognize, remember, we're 25 years plus here now, right? So you know, we have the long tenured people that are coming to retirement, and in addition, we recognise that we don't have enough diversity. I mentioned that earlier on. So we had less than 5% of our process technicians, over 1,000 people in that pool, less than 5% were female. So we recognise, we need to have a pipeline coming in, both for the fact that we'll have some attrition for people retiring, and in addition to that, how do we bring some diversity in? Because again, we recognise that would give us even greater strength and capability for our future workforce. So about 3-4 years ago, we initiated this generation apprenticeship in partnership with LIT, and we've grown its successes. We now have a minimum of 12 to 13 apprentices year on year coming in. So in total, we've about 60 people gone through that program in the last just 3 years. As I mentioned, near 50% of those are now female. So we went from 1 female entrant in the apprentice program in the first year to actually 50% of the entrants in the apprentice program being female this year. And actually, we're finding that through applications, it's gone from less than 10% female applications to over 50% female applications.
Okay.
So we have managed to make it an attractive sector for a diverse population to go for. And what we would say is that, we have found phenomenal success. Every single apprentice that has successfully completed the 2-year program, it's a 2-year program, level 6, over 90% of them completed successfully. And of all those, they all secured a permanent role with us here in Johnson & Johnson. So
Very good.
It's phenomenally successful. We see it continuing to grow. We see apprenticeship programs continuing on. So you don't just finish at level 6. We're now going to expand it to level 7s, 8s, 9s, 10s. And by the way, our apprenticeship program is highly geared to the engineering field, but we also have apprenticeships in logistics, management, finance, quality. So, and again, people used to say apprenticeship, there's a misnomer out there that apprenticeship was kind of to do with the crafts, as you said, Peadar, before, and people have that. To be honest with you, I consider myself an apprentice, because at the end of the day, what is apprentice? Practical learning with academic learning. We've all undertaken it as a lifelong learning. So I did a master's back years ago. I've just done another higher diploma. So sure, that's apprenticeship, right? Yeah. So what I would say is there's a misnomer out there that this alternate path than going into full-time education, but going into learn as you work through an apprenticeship program. That's what you will be doing, that irrespective of whether you go that pathway initially when you leave school, or you do it later on during your lifelong learning. You will end up doing, whether you'll ever call it formally that or not, an apprenticeship type development. And, be proud of it, because when I look back on it, it has been phenomenally successful for us here as a business, and we actually see it as being a primary route of sourcing our talent going forward.
Okay. And Mark, Kirbys are involved in apprenticeships, craft apprenticeships mainly, is it?
It is mainly craft apprenticeships, yeah. So I suppose the key with the way Kirbys work is, I suppose, the old electrical apprenticeship and the pipe fitter apprenticeship, the electrical, the mechanical. However, we've teamed up with LIT over the last number of years in a similar kind of vein to Johnson & Johnson, although it's not the generation apprenticeship. It's a traditional apprenticeship, but I suppose a lot of the work that goes on in LIT is in conjunction with Kirby with regard to the learning part of it. So when our guys go for their Solace training, they go to LIT and they do their academic side of the apprenticeship. But I suppose the key thing for Kirbys is that we don't differentiate apprentices with engineers from a career standpoint. Our managing director was an apprentice with the ESB. That's how he started. He's now our managing director. The previous managing director started with Kirbys as an apprentice electrician, and he made it to MD. So I think whether you're a graduate engineer apprentice, you come into the same, I suppose, system within Kirbys. And if you do an apprenticeship within Kirbys and you qualify, you can then go and Kirbys will sponsor you to go and do more education within LIT to further better yourself, if that's what you feel you want to do. If you want to get a level 7, a level 8, a level 9 qualification, but it doesn't stop you within Kirbys. So there's numerous paths within our business. and you can go right to the top. The last two MDs were apprentices, and that's how they started. So it's you know, I suppose the world of engineering is a wide world, and you know, you can go many different routes. So I wouldn't rule anything out.
Thanks, Mark. And Gerry, I believe that there's a generation apprenticeship in precision on the pipeline.
There is indeed, yeah. And I suppose reiterate what the two lads have just said, in that you know, if you choose a career in engineering, you're not looking at 4 years learning in college. You're looking really at a lifetime in learning, and that's because engineering is, number one, it's always moving forward, and there's new technologies coming on board. And it's also because engineering is so broad, and there's such a wide spectrum of skills that throughout your career you will most likely pivot across from one area into another, and there'll be new learning involved. The other thing I would also say is that throughout my own career, some of the best engineers I've come across, both in Takumi and also among my customer base, have been engineers that started out as apprentices and that pivoted across into more structured learning, or whatever you want to call it, to get up to the level 7 and level 8. But because they had that tremendous grounding in the practicalities of an apprenticeship, they become very good engineers and leaders in industry, as the lads have alluded to, as their career progresses. And I think LIT, right back from my own time in the 80s in college, always had that ethos and infrastructure that the apprenticeship and the degree program were very, very integrated, and you could pivot across from one to the other very easily. Yeah. And I reiterate again to anyone out there that's thinking of a career in engineering, you know, even after your 4 years in college and when you start your job, I always take people aside, and you know, when they enter Takumi from college, and say, listen, the learning journey is really only starting now. And I often say to people that Takumi is as much a place of learning as it is a place of work. And it's only through our apprentices, our engineers, our employees learning and improving every month, every year, that Takumi can grow as a business. We grow through our employees, and LIT is certainly a very important vehicle in that growth journey for our employees.
And I suppose finally, to conclude, you know, and I suppose I could put this to all three of you: if you had a son or a daughter in the morning and they were completing their CAO application, what advice would you give them? Gerry?
Well, I suppose I put my money where my mouth is. So I have a son in the Precision Engineering degree course. He, in fairness, chose it of his own volition. It turned up on the CAO. Probably a little bit of a surprise to him, but he went in there and is thriving and really loves it day to day.
Great. Michael, what about you?
Yeah, so actually, you know, my daughter only completed her CO last year, so she's gone into the IT side and is doing a science qualification actually. So, you know, it's fairly recent in my memory now on that. So all I would say is my recommendation is, you know, be sure you select something that you have a passion for and an interest in. Okay, and don't get caught with you know, following a fad, or you know, thinking that, listen, geez, everybody is applying for education or something, and is there something wrong with me? I should go for education. No, follow your passion, your interest, right? So, you know, and equally as well, look at the course content. Be sure it's giving you what you're interested in and what you're going to do. So, for example, in my daughter's case, she'd more than enough capability and points to be able to go into particular institutes. But, you know, when she looked at the courses and all that, and it was far lower points, and she was kind of going, well, if I put that down as my first choice, you know, I could go to these kind of who are considered high-profile academic entities, right? And I kind of said, was that the course you want to do? Is that really what you want to do? And she said, no, but you know, my friends are going to be going there. If I get this amount, I kind of went, no, do what you're interested in. And I can tell you, absolutely thriving, loving it, best decision she ever made. So what I would say to you is, you know, do well in your exams. I'm sure you will. You know, it'll be, you know, but follow your interests and passions and the right course. Pick the course. Don't get. And then look at the course, how it's delivered, and also, do remember, listen, you go into the engineering field, it has a wide breadth, right? I'm a technologist, I'm not actually an engineer, I'm a technologist, but what I would tell you is either any of those technical fields, your options when you come out of it aren't narrow at all. As Mark has mentioned, you can go into so many different fields and different parts of the world. So all I would say to you is, again, if you're filling out your CEO, please have a course that is in subject matter that you have a particular interest and passion in, and that's the key to success.
Thanks, Michael. And Mark, what advice would you give?
Yeah, look, I suppose I have to echo what the guys were saying. I always knew I wanted to do engineering. I never knew what type of engineer I wanted to be, which I felt like I had to be pigeonholed to when I was doing engineering. So I suppose process engineering or mechanical engineering, what do I have to do? And the other thing that was very prevalent when I was filling in my CAO, it was, I think Michael said it there, what's flavor of the month? All these jobs are paying this amount of money right now. I can guarantee you, if you go into engineering and you do an engineering course, you more than likely in 10 years from now will be doing a job that doesn't exist yet. So, engineering will give you the platform to go ahead and do whatever you want to do. So don't get caught up on the flavor of the month. This job is going to pay this amount. Go in, do a job or do a course you're passionate about. It's half the battle if you enjoy what you're doing. And I would also just, I suppose, stress, again, just something, my own personal experience. LIT, I really felt at home. And I always say that to anyone I speak to, it was a home away from home. So you do have to be very comfortable in the institute that you go to. Don't go to somewhere because you think it's, again, all my friends are going or this is the place I should be. Go somewhere that you feel comfortable in. And I can guarantee you, if you want to go somewhere where it's a family environment nearly, go to LIT. I mean, it's testament, Peadar, that I still talk to all you guys. I know I started in 99. I didn't leave for a long time, but I started in 99. And I'm still friendly with all of you. We even had a few games of football there on Friday evenings, So you won't get that in any other institute, I guarantee you.
Well, look, gentlemen, I'd like to thank you so much on behalf of LIT for giving us, time, because you all have busy schedules and whatever. But, each of you have described your business in great detail, and your discussion and comments have really been enlightening. And hopefully, when our audience are filling out their CAO, that they will say, yes, we want to do engineering in LIT. But once again, I'd like to thank you very, very much. Now, I have a small little bit of housekeeping to do before we go, just to say to the audience at home, a presentation of the full suite of engineering programs here at LIT is now available further down this webpage. And question and answers forum is also now open. So if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to insert them in the forum at the bottom of the web page.